Thank you for tuning in to the Monday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. A lot to talk about today, but first, the wind is still whipping out there.
It is. It's really whipping out there. It's been crazy over the last couple of days. I went out yesterday to do some grocery shopping for my dad about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I walked outside, and it was perfectly fine. Didn't seem so bad. I'm like, all right, it sounded a lot worse than it was. And then I got out of the grocery store at 6 o'clock, and walking back toward the car, I opened the door up, and I just happened to face in the wind as it was gusting, and it about punted me square across the parking lot.
Yeah, it's been crazy. It blew our gazebo off the foundation. You go through the neighborhood. I never understand why people put trash out the night before when it's really super windy.
No.
Because the neighborhood is just crazy with the trash everywhere. But I think our power just went on and off.
Yeah, I had a few power outages yesterday. Yeah.
But we are very lucky, and here at the studio too, we also have power. I know at one point in time, about 250,000 people without power. Seems like Sylvan Lake got hit pretty badly during the storm. I know a lot of people in that area living without power right now. And you know what? Maybe it's a good thing that they lost power, because then they missed the governor's press conference last night. No surprise. I'm not surprised. So Governor Whitmer, in a rare Sunday night press conference, announced...
This is the first one she's done during this. I don't recall there being a weekend press conference before during this entire pandemic.
Yeah, the signs were there. We knew it was coming. She kept warning it was coming, and so it came. And so I'm sure all of you by now have heard it's not a full shutdown, and it's not, a mandated stay-at-home order like we had back in March and April. However, a lot of things starting Wednesday are going to be closing again. Movie theaters, which just reopened, ice rinks, so many of these businesses, you wonder, how are they going to be able to survive the shutdown? And while they're saying at this point it's only going to be for 3 weeks, lifted December 8th, but of course that's going to be, determined by the numbers, and if the numbers go down. But we already are seeing a delay in getting some of these test results back, and I think you're going to see the numbers continue to go up because of the election.
Yeah, I would agree. Because of the election, because of the events that have happened since then as well, a lot of social gatherings all throughout the U.S., including in the state of Michigan, whether it be celebrations if you're on one side, protests if you're on the other, because so many people did still vote at the polls, and we're still within that 2-week window since election day, that we're just really going to start to get those kinds of cases that may or may not have come into play from there, and then just the general COVID-19 fatigue and the holiday coming up as well, which is certainly going to bring a rise in cases. I mean, the governor even mentioned that yesterday in her press conference, that inevitably they know, and we all know, that some people are just not going to follow these orders and are still going to have large family gatherings on Thanksgiving, where in many cases, inevitably, some COVID-19 will be passed throughout families.
Yeah, and the restaurants are going to be closing down. The restaurants and the bars, as of Wednesday, they'll be allowed to be open for carry-out only. So a little bit later on the show, we will be speaking again with John McNamara. We had him on just a couple weeks ago, but again, this everything changes, and so we'll have him on. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. We'll have him on to talk about that, as well as a few other guests, including the Michigan High School Athletic Association. So with that, we'll kind of jump into the headlines for you this morning if you head over to civiccentertv.com. As we were just speaking, the governor, here's basically the ins and outs of how this is going to work after she announced the wide-ranging new restrictions limiting gatherings at high schools, colleges, and restaurants to combat what she described as the worst moment in COVID-19. The new policies will temporarily halt in-person instruction at high schools and colleges, indoor dine-in service at restaurants and bars, high school athletics, as well as close some businesses, including movie theaters, bowling alleys, and casinos. The restrictions imposed through the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services start Wednesday, and they'll be in place until December 8th. Under the order, indoor residential gatherings will be limited to 2 households at any given time. There's no way for them to actually enforce the household situation. I think, again, it's going to be so many families are going to have to make these decisions on their own and how they want to go forward with this as well. One of the things a lot of the college kids are trying to come home, and again, the testing is going to be an issue, but when the kids come home from college, because now colleges have to be remote, so is that forcing the kids to come home?
Yeah, but that's unclear right now. I'm sure that it will be cleared up by Wednesday. We'll know, for those that may have been living on campus at some of these colleges and universities in Michigan, if they're sending those people home, and how are those families going to adjust then? Because you've been in a very crowded environment in the college town or in college classes, and now you're going home and will likely have to quarantine away from the rest of your family for a couple of weeks if you're being as safe as possible. So it's creating a lot of complicated situations here.
Yeah, and think about the sports teams right now.
Yeah.
Because due to this announcement, high school fall sports season has been halted for at least 3 weeks. Fall tournaments involving girls swimming and diving, volleyball, and football have been suspended until at least that December 8th deadline. That's effective immediately. And according to the Michigan High School Athletic Association, volleyball and swimming and diving are in the final week of their postseason, while football has 3 weeks remaining. The state semifinals were scheduled for November 27th and 28th. State title games December 4th and 5th at Ford Field. Those games are not going to be taking place now. But I know, Tyler, you guys did the game on Saturday. You've been at a lot of these high school football games. Have they been crowded at all?
They've been a little bit crowded, but for the most part, people are wearing their masks. They're staying cohorted with their own families or their own small groups at a 6 foot distance or at a healthy distance with masks on, and they're required on site at these places. And so I do question this decision, particularly for fall sports, which are generally outside. I can understand to some extent for volleyball and to some extent for swimming because they are in closer proximity and they are indoors. But even those sports, they've been able to navigate through this season safely. So I question whether or not, at this moment in time, revoking the ability to play all fall sports at the high school level, but not the college or the professional level, is questionable, especially because the natural first step, I would think, would be, okay, no more spectators, or instead of 1,000 people maximum in outdoor spectator sports situations, you knock that down to a couple of hundred people, or to very limited, just one person per participant can be a spectator, and then school officials as well, like you had at the beginning of the season. And mind you, I'm a person that at the beginning of the season, when they did allow the MHSAA and these sports, the state did allow them to continue their season, I was in the camp that I thought it was an irresponsible decision. I didn't think it was going to be workable. I thought it was dangerous, and I've been proven wrong by that over the course of time. And now I'm looking at this with the way things have been going, particularly during the football season, which I think would be the sport that most are concerned about because it is such close contact and it is a highly physical game. But there have been minimal outbreaks. Yes, there have been outbreaks. There have been teams that have had positive cases that have had outbreaks within their teams, but they have either shut down and not played their games, or in the case of the playoffs, they have shut down their season. Mm-hmm. They have foregone the remainder of their season and said, unfortunately, the seniors on this team have played their final game at the high school level, some of them at their final organized game altogether. I think that at this point in the season, it's kind of a punishment for the kids to shut the season down entirely and not start by limiting spectators, considering that the kids and these teams and these coaches have been safe all throughout the season so far.
And we really do have to give a lot of credit to the coaches, but as well
Yes.
to the students, because they've taken this very seriously. Members of a team knew the risk of what was going to be associated if they had to forfeit the game, or if so many people, came down positive. So a lot of these students have been taking this, I believe, much more seriously than what they would have done had they not been playing sports.
And I think on top of, we can say that this is a bad decision, and we can say that this is probably not the best decision to be made by the state on behalf of these children and the coaches of these teams. But I also can't help but feel like we did this to them as a society here in Michigan by not taking things seriously enough, by letting the fatigue of dealing with COVID-19 get to us and letting our guards down again to a point where things got this serious.
Yeah, one of the things that's going to be difficult, so going forward, because we're doing so much more testing right now, is there's a backlog when it comes to getting the results. So especially if you're trying to get tested before Thanksgiving, well, you may not get that test result back, because if you're lucky enough to get tested, expect to wait for your results. Michigan doesn't track turnaround times, but it appears that, about 2 weeks before the holiday, it's going to take anywhere from 3 to 5 days for you to get a test result. Testing demand has soared as the number of coronavirus cases in the state spiked, and the percentage of tests coming back positive has risen to about 14%. So that's one of the things they've been tracking, is that positive testing rate. Yeah. And so in the past week, the state has seen an average of nearly 53,000 daily tests. That's up from about 35,000 just 5 weeks ago. And so therefore it's creating a huge backlog. In fact, some places now, we had the doctor on last week, was saying, if you do not have symptoms, do not get tested because of the backlog, but also there is, concern that we could actually get back into a situation where maybe they don't have enough testing supplies.
Yeah, and it's going to be very prioritized anyway, so if you are able to get in without having symptoms or not necessarily needing a test, it's very possible that immediately or very soon they could go to this person's symptomatic. These tests are from people that are symptomatic. These are from people that are very symptomatic. These are people that are immunocompromised or immunosuppressed. Their tests are going to be the first ones in line, and those without symptoms are going to be told quarantine. It may be 3 days, it may be 5 days, it could be closer to 10 days. You're just going to have to deal with it because you can quarantine and it's not immediately life-threatening, whereas for someone that's immunosuppressed or someone that's clearly showing symptoms, especially multiple symptoms, it could be a very tricky situation for them very shortly if they don't have expedient test results.
Well, one of the good things coming out this morning is another drug company has announced that they too are having success with a vaccine. It looks like theirs is 95%. Accurate, so therefore, or effective. So more drug companies coming up with a vaccine for COVID-19, but again, it's probably going to be until at least next March or April before it's going to be widely available. But that is, some good news in all of this. And just a reminder, you can go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus at the top of the page, and that's where you'll find the latest headlines, but also there are links right there to some of the other resources like the state of Michigan. If you want to read the order from the health department yourself, just go to the state of Michigan. We'll make it easy for you, and you can get all that information right there on civiccentertv.com. Tyler and I are going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, but we have a lot to get to in the next hour and a half. When we come back, we'll be speaking with the Parks Superintendent over at the West Bloomfield Parks. And then also in the 11 o'clock hour, Michigan State Senator Rosemary Bayer is going to be with us. She is with District 12. So we haven't talked to her since the election. So a lot of news to talk to about her and about what's going on here in the district. So this is the Oakland County Megacast. We'll be back in just a minute.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call. to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonae Khaldun. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
Great to have you with us on the Monday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. That weekend just flew by, Tyler.
It really did.
Just like that, it was over. The weather has been completely crazy, though, for anyone who was able to get outside. If they wanted to, I did still see people out running early this morning when I was walking the dog. So despite the crazy...
Were they running like the wind? Too soon was it? Too early on a Monday for tough crowd.
That's a good one. We'll take it. We'll give you one point for that.
I'll be here all week.
But it is, great. And with the announcement, more things are going to be shutting down. I think more people are going to once again get outside, enjoy our beautiful parks as well as the trails. And with us now on the Oakland County Megacast, let's bring in Joe Ketchum. He is the park superintendent for the West Bloomfield Parks Department. We want to say thank you for being with us on the Oakland County Megacast, and also thank you to the West Bloomfield Parks for allowing us to live stream today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast on your Facebook page. How are you doing today, Joe? Did you survive the windy weekend?
Well, my wife tried to get me to put Christmas lights up on the roof yesterday, and I said, I don't think it's a good idea today. So I did survive. I did not get on the roof. So
see, Mother Nature gave you a favor.
Yes, it did.
So
but everything's good, and actually the parks are open, and obviously with the governor's news, we really want people, when we do have some really nice weather, to continue to come out and enjoy our parks.
So we will just kind of touching on the weather. When the weather is as crazy as it was this weekend, was there any damage done to any of the parks? Any trees down, things of that nature?
So our staff gets here at 7 o'clock in the morning. We check messages, and then we do our park openings and assess damages. We really do depend on our residents, however, because we cannot cover the 600 acres of parkland all by ourselves. So we do depend on our residents to call in, and they're very vigilant and will call us and let us know of any damage. But as far as I know of today, we do not have any damage out there.
Oh, that's good, because I saw a lot of trees down over in our area last night and coming into today, so that's good news as far as the parks. So let's talk a little bit about the parks. Usage has been up a lot during the pandemic. Going into the winter months, what type of activities are going to be offered?
Well, going into the winter activities, obviously the governor's announcement here yesterday has got us scrambling, and our recreation staff will be working on that obviously in the next couple of days to try to change schedules. But we were looking forward to still doing virtual programming where we could do it over Zooms, or we can do it virtually on our Facebook. So we'll continue to do that. And we were doing a lot of outdoor programming where we could do events outdoors, where we could walk, and we're going to continue to do that with our naturalist programs. And then we were doing, and I think we're going to continue doing some parking lot bingo and some trivia bingo in the parking lot. That way people can come and continue to do that program safely in their own cars. So we're going to continue to look for programming opportunities that are going to be virtual or very limited outdoor experiences, if that makes sense.
Joe Ketchum joining us from West Bloomfield Parks. He is their Parks Superintendent with us on the Oakland County Megacast. And Joe, today, Parks celebrates its 50th anniversary serving the Township of West Bloomfield. You've been with the organization for 30 years, and congratulations on your 30 years with the organization. Thank you for your service to the community as well. Definitely right now, there's been a lot of changes that have been made in the last 8 months and have continued to have been made as the pandemic continues on. But over your time with Parks, what have you seen as being some of the key changes and developments over time that has turned West Bloomfield Parks into a staple of the West Bloomfield community that people look to when they're visiting West Bloomfield or when they're considering moving to West Bloomfield as an attraction?
Well, first and foremost, the biggest thing I can say that's been the biggest changing point for this department is the support of the residents. We have 4 operating millages that have to be voted on every 10 years. They kind of different 10-year spans, but the overwhelming support of the community in those millages has allowed us to provide such a beautiful park system to the 65,000 residents of West Bloomfield. And really, starting back with Joey Spano, who just retired from the community education, was one of the biggest driving forces, I think, for the Parks Department was the acquisition of the Arrowhead Nature Preserve and the 4.2 miles of the original West Bloomfield Trail, Rails to Trail project. That Rails to Trail program and development has really spearheaded the interest and the use in our parks. And obviously there's been lots of other things that have happened over the course of my career. Luckily I got here and we already had Marshbank Park, but Marshbank Park was a Metro Parks back in the day, and we were able to acquire that for $1 from the Metro Park system. And the redevelopment of that 10 years ago has really spiked the use of Marshbank Park and the ability for people to use the water by our fishing pier or by the canoe kayak launch. In the years prior to that, there was no way of accessing the water. There's just lots of different things that I can just continue to name, but it's really been at the bottom line, it's been the support of the residents with their tax dollars enabling us to do this wonderful work.
And Joe, how much do you think this pandemic has actually helped support the parks? Because, when we were all locked down, we really only had our parks to be able to get out and to enjoy. Do you think it allowed for people to get out and really appreciate what is in their backyard?
Oh, absolutely. Parks and Recreation departments for years have always said that we're essential, that we're an essential service, that we're an important part of the community. This pandemic has just highlighted our how essential we are. And quite honestly, like I said, I've been here almost 29 years, and I have never seen the amount of usage that we have seen this past 6 to 7 months since the pandemic struck. I think, a couple things. Obviously, it's one of the few places that people feel safe, that they can go out and enjoy and use our facilities, but also the fact that so many people are home. So many people are home working. So the mom or dad that's working from home and now they're going to take their lunch hour instead of going to a restaurant, they can come out to our park, do a quick 45-minute walk in the trail over at Drake Sports Park around the walking path. They can do those kind of activities a lot easier now that they're working from home and can get out and enjoy these things. But obviously, it's been wonderful to see the people use our parks. It's been an interesting 6-7 months. When we first hit, we were shutting everything down, and then once we started to learn more about the virus and how it reacts and then what we could do safely, we started ramping things up to reopen stuff and get people back out in the parks. And it's been wonderful, and really do appreciate, once again, the people that are coming out to the parks, respecting our parks, taking care of them, and hopefully respecting one another.
With that, obviously in the first phase, a lot of the, playground equipment and things of that nature were actually closed. Now it's back open, but there is a warning at all the parks near the playground equipment for people just to know if they use it for their safety. Any indication that they may be off limits again if this continues into the winter months?
No, the only thing that will happen with our, really what they found with the virus is that it's more intimate contact, where people are breathing on each other. Really, the surfaces we found, what's been found is it's not where you get it. And quite honestly, with the equipment being outside, natural sunlight, cold temperatures, different temperatures actually kill the virus. So with that said, the only thing I will say going in the winter months is that we actually do close down our playgrounds during the winter time, because our safety surfaces for kids to safely be on those apparatuses and not fall, or when they fall onto a safety surface, those surfaces become frozen. So we actually do close down our playgrounds, and it'll be pretty soon, depending on the weather, we will start closing down the playgrounds. But that's what we do every year. It has nothing to do with the virus. And as soon as we can, we'll reopen them in the spring. What we'll do in the wintertime, though, is we'll set up sledding hills over at Marshbank Park and behind Town Hall. And so we have 2 sledding hills that we set up and maintain during the winter for people to get out and enjoy. And obviously, the parks are always open, so people can come out, sled, they can cross-country ski, and just go for a hike.
Oh, I do still enjoy sledding. I think even if, you might be an adult, but it's okay to still go to the sled hill.
It's fun.
Absolutely.
I'll take on the little kids any day. Knowing that, so it's the 50th anniversary, what do you think is ahead for the Parks Department, even, let's say, in the next 5 years? What's on the horizon?
Well, obviously, the biggest thing that's coming down the horizon for us will be this Memorial Day. We'll be opening up the Lily Pad Spring Spray Park at the location 6200 Farmany Road, which was our Family Aquatic Center. And that's a $3 million project that we have been working on for the last 3 years, and are just looking really forward to opening that up this next summer. Hopefully by then the pandemic has slowed down, and we can fully open it to the public. And that's our next big major project and opportunity that we're looking forward to presenting to the residents of West Bloomfield.
Joe Ketchum with us. He's the Parks Superintendent, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast from West Bloomfield Parks, our Facebook partner of the day as well. Joe, just another few minutes with you on the program today. Anything else that would be important for our audience to know from West Bloomfield Parks right now, or anything else that we have not spoken about on today's show?
Absolutely. Today at 3 o'clock on our Facebook Live, we have a 50th anniversary history quiz contest that's going on.
That's okay. We're all experiencing those little technical snafus.
Yes. So at 3 o'clock today, live Facebook, West Bloomfield Facebook page, we're having a quiz contest for the history of West Bloomfield. And there's going to be prizes. I think some of the prizes are going to be free passes to the Lily Pad Spring Spray Park. And we look forward to people participating in that at 3 o'clock. Please join us. And other than that, just everybody have a safe holiday season. And hopefully we can all get through this pandemic with a lot of kindness and respect to one another.
Oh, we can't wait for that and for this to be over. Hopefully with the vaccine, by the time the lily pad is actually open, by that time it seems like the vaccine will be widely available to the public, which will allow for us, I don't know, we'll ever get back to our old way of living, but a new way of living that we can get out and enjoy these things. Hey, quickly, Joe, before we let you go, if we could just talk for a minute about how you guys are doing on employees. I know that that's been a challenge for the Parks Department and really so many companies as well. What's that looking like for you and your staff going into the winter months?
Well, winter months we're in good shape because we have our full-time staff. It's really in the summertime, spring and summer, that we really will be desperate for summer staff, seasonal summer staff. Obviously, we'll be adding people to our spray park, Lily Pad Springs, the park staff. With the pandemic this year, we really reduced our staff, and then when we saw that we needed more staff, we couldn't get any staff. So we will be out there recruiting this winter. We spent a lot of time in the winter time trying to recruit for staff for the summer. So anybody who's interested in working at the Lily Pad Springs next summer, please put in an application at westbloomfieldparks.org, and then or wvparks.org, excuse me. And then same thing if you want to work out in the parks, dragging and marking baseball fields, mowing lawns, any of that kind of activity. We are looking for 18-year-old healthy young West Bloomfield residents to come out and help us in our parks.
You know what? And it looks great on a resume. Plus, your first job or your second job, it's great to be able to have a job where you are actually outdoors, enjoying the weather and not stuck inside. So I hope that it's a lot easier for you and your team over there at the West Bloomfield Parks to be able to hire people next year. So again, thank you for being with us here on the Oakland County Megacast, and congratulations again on the anniversary. Facebook Live today at 3 o'clock over on the West Bloomfield Parks Facebook page. Check it out, and maybe you can get some free passes. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and then when Tyler and I come back, we'll be continuing the conversation about the latest shutdown, bringing in Rosemary Bayer. She is the Michigan State Senator for District 12. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Parks COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Great to have you tuning in to the Tuesday or Monday edition
Close
of
enough.
the Oakland County Megacast. Look at that. I'm just trying to push the week along.
The weekend went so quick. Why can't the week, huh? Right?
That would be great. That would be so great. Just a reminder, you can catch Tyler and I here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. If you still have cable, we want to say thank you. You can find us on Channel 15 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T. And then, of course, if you're out driving around, tune us into the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM, the BIP. And again, want to say thank you to the West Bloomfield Parks Department for allowing us to stream today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast on their Facebook page. And as a reminder, tune in to them today at 3 for their Facebook Live. Maybe win some tickets. I love having the parks and our backyard. It's so Tyler, we live on the West Bloomfield Trail Network, and went out this morning. It's like every day there's been a family of deer all summer long. I saw 6 deer this morning, all before 6 o'clock, out there frolicking, playing.
That's nice.
Eating my eating my bushes.
Oh, no.
That wasn't so fun, but we're so lucky to have that in our backyard. So get out and enjoy it. That's one thing that I think so many of us are happy to have during this pandemic is Mother Nature and all that the Parks Department offers. With that, though, let's turn the conversation back a little bit. The election has been over now, still a little bit contentious on the presidential side. The President Trump still not ready to, accept defeat. And so over the weekend, we had a few protests, Trump supporters out as well. So the election may be in the rearview mirror. However, it is not over just yet. Let's bring in Rosemary Bayer. She is the Michigan State Senator for District 12, which covers a good portion of our area here in central Oakland County, Pontiac, Kego, and all of our great little towns here. Thank you for being with us here on the Megacast. How are you? It's good to have you again.
Thank you. It's so nice to be with you guys. Ronnie, Tyler, so nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
It's nice to see that you have power.
Yes, I know. Most people around me don't, actually. I keep hearing that from folks. Oh, I got to get off oh, there goes my computer just died because the power's out,
Yeah. I wonder what it's like for parents that have to remote teach today or when without the power. So I guess it's kind of going to be the new snow days, right? When the power goes out.
Oh, that's a really good point. People were kind of bumming about no snow days, but here we go. We're always going to have that, right?
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit. Let's start off with the governor's announcement yesterday. And your thoughts on that. And one of the big things that's going to be happening is obviously this is a lot different than the first time around, and that there is no federal stimulus package right now to help some of these employees that are maybe going to be laid off. And a lot of those employees are typically the ones that can least afford to be losing their jobs right now, maybe some servers in restaurants and bartenders. What do you want your constituents to know that maybe work in these industries?
Yeah, boy, I know it's going to be rough. Two things. One, there's certainly still work going on at the federal level to get a stimulus package out. And I know there's a big push to do that before the end of the year. So we're obviously encouraging our congressional representatives and kind of keep moving that forward. We really need that help here in Michigan. And I know they're hearing our message and we're working on it. So, but secondly, there are supports for people still in the state. We do have unemployment here. It's still solvent. And if there's other kinds of assistance, there's a lot of different programs that are set up to help people get through this, all kinds of assistance. So I would suggest one, you can, call your representative's office, if folks are in District 12, or if you don't know what district you're in, you can call my office. It's 517-373-2417. Or you can go and look up who your representation is and call them. There are many different supports to find that. And a lot of it you can get by going to the michigan.gov/coronavirus page website. Also oakgov.com, that page has a coronavirus link with all kinds of resources. So don't hesitate to reach out and ask for help. There is no shame in this. I mean, everybody is in this big boat together right now, and asking for help is okay. It's what we want people to do. We don't want anybody to suffer through this. So anything we can do to help, that's why we have government, right? We're here to help.
And speaking of government, you are our elected leaders, but yet here, even in Lansing, the two sides of the aisle don't seem to be getting along very well. Especially now,
we
have some
Republicans. Now we're sparky, yeah.
And especially, now we have some Republicans that are calling for an impeachment on Governor Whitmer, saying that, enough's not being done to try to bring in our elected leaders into this process to make these decisions related to COVID. Oh, your response to that relationship between the two sides?
Well, it's pretty tense right now, I will say that. And, there's just a lot of it is just noise in the system and trying to cover something. In this particular circumstance, it's really actually infuriating for us because they worked so hard to take the governor's administrative powers away, right? So they actually got the Supreme Court to invalidate a law from 1945 that every governor has used to how to manage an emergency. They got them to declare that law unconstitutional after all these years, nearly a century. And because of that, she could no longer make decisions and act appropriately in this emergency, which is still going on. We are still in a pandemic. It is still an emergency. That put that onus onto the legislature to stand in then, right? Okay, we wanted this, they wanted it, they got it, and did absolutely nothing. Did literally nothing about it. I mean, we just, it's frustrating to watch. It's hard for us on the other side of the aisle. The way our work is set up, in the minority party is not allowed to have any new bills after October 1st. So we need some things to manage this, and we have no input into that. So it all has to come from the leadership, the majority leadership, the Republican side, and they're not taking the actions that we need. And so, if they were standing up and doing things, that would be great, but they're not. And so the governor is trying to fill in that through the Department of Health and Human Services, which, to be honest, the public health department actually makes sense to set rules for how we should behave in a time of a health crisis. So, and on that front, that makes sense. For them to react the way they are to that idea is kind of nutty, because they're the ones who wanted control and then they didn't take it. So kind of hard to feel bad for them, and really it's time for them to just let the government work and take care of the people.
Senator Bayer, have there even been discussions between the two parties, or from what you may have heard within the majority party, which is the Republican Party at this point in time in Lansing, about these issues, about legislating in some way or another the state's response to COVID-19? Have those discussions even been initiated in Lansing? I think a lot of people are wondering that.
Well, we were kind of wondering, given that this is hunting week, so we were told there's no session now until December. And last week, the House actually canceled their session with the announcement that there was nothing important on the agenda, and so we don't need to meet. And I just gasped when I heard that. And then when we got our agenda, all that was on it was alcohol bills. So I understand that sometimes people are having an extra glass of wine right now because this is a tough time for all of us, but that is an inappropriate way, or an inadequate set of activities or things to talk about in this pandemic. I was actually appalled by that agenda. I couldn't believe it. So that's what they're bringing to the play. I mean, it wasn't like alcohol for COVID. It was just bills having to do with who's allowed to sell cans of mixed drinks and who's not, and stuff like that, which nobody cares about. I mean, there are things that need to get done, but not right now. Right now, we need to focus on the pandemic, and there was nothing about that. So, I think this is so they took away the governor's powers to act for the very end of September. And so now we are a month and a half after that, and they've not done anything.
So within your own party, were you given a heads up that this was in the pipeline and this was going to be coming, the new restrictions?
No. No, I would say no, just flat out. But anybody who's paying attention to what's happening in the state and watching our numbers shoot through the roof, and you can actually see a 90-degree turn in the curve on cases and hospitalizations since the governor's powers were taken away, by the way. You can literally see it on the charts. But in other places where they have seen those kinds of resurgences that are so extreme, taking action and putting restrictions on the populace does help. I mean, this is the only way to make these numbers come back down, is to get everybody, this is public health again, to get everybody to participate in doing these restrictive activities and wearing masks and keeping distance. And that's how we get it under control. Until we have medicine and vaccines, this is the only tool we have, so we have to do it. So we're not surprised. I mean, if you're paying attention and looking at the data, the science and the medicine around this, you would know that something was bound to happen.
And so with that, when the details came out last night in the press conference, is that when you became aware of all the details as well, right along with the rest of us in the public, or did you know something prior?
No, that's when we got the details, was yesterday. Yes, same time. It's coming out of the health department. Yeah, no, we didn't get them. That's all I have to say about that. I like I said, nobody was surprised, at least in my work, nobody was surprised to see that. I have seen rules from other states that are actually way more severe than ours. I mean, it might feel like we have a lot of rules now, and it's actually not that many. It's stage 2 with some modification. But if you look at Washington, the state of Washington, people are directed by law to not be indoors with anyone they don't live with.
And so with these, the new announcement, has your phone been ringing off the hook today from people trying to get clarification and more directive on how this is actually going to play out? And, is there a possibility it's going to extend beyond the 3 weeks?
Well, if we could actually do it, so this is the other thing that the data show, the science around this, is if we could get all of Michigan to participate in these restrictions for 3 weeks, we will see the curve drop, because you can see the exact same thing happen in other countries and other states where they put severe, tight restrictions on, and then you see a drop within a few weeks. It really does work. And we've been saying this for a long time. In the early days, it was less time because it wasn't as broadly spread, where if we could have gotten everyone to participate in those restrictions like we have now, for 2 weeks, it would have gotten it all under control. This time, we're thinking more like 3 weeks. Either way, we need everybody to participate. So if we continue to have this resistance, which is what I'm worried about, and this is where the leadership on both sides needs to stand up, because the data show this is the way to do this. We do not have medicine yet. We do not have vaccines yet. This is the only way we are going to get out of this surge soon without losing a heck of a lot of people, is to put those restrictions, take it seriously, wear your mask, keep your distance, don't have gatherings, all of those things. And they're not really very complicated. I don't know if either of you have had a chance to go look at the website on the michigan.gov/coronavirus website. There's a diagram right there that shows exactly what the orders are, and it's pictures. So, I know they've been working hard on the messaging around this so that people are not confused. And we've had a lot of questions and calls over the last few weeks about sports, and particularly school sports, of course. What are people allowed to do? And there's diagrams, and it says really specifically, this is allowed and this is not. It's a nice little chart. Everybody could go take a look at it. It's michigan.gov/coronavirus. And if there are questions after that, we are always happy to answer. And then there's actually a live chat on there. You can ask questions. So I think they worked pretty hard to try to make it clear and simple for people to participate in this. And it's only really, truly, if we could get everybody to do it, a few weeks. Be good.
Michigan State Senator Rosemary Bayer with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. She is with District 12. Great to have you with us today and to answer so many of these questions. And with that, so if I'm a business owner, maybe I have a restaurant and a small restaurant, I'm already at limited capacity. Now I'm being shut down, except for, carry out service. What do you want the business owners to know? And how is it going to work? Can they be fined, and who's doing the fining, or is this going to be up to our local police departments to try to enforce again?
Yeah, I mean, the challenge with enforcement is there only is one arm, right? I mean, it is a $1,000 fine. We still have that. That's back, I guess. But it is local enforcement. And like I said, the only way this can work is everyone needs to voluntarily participate. I mean, the rules are there, and you should follow the rules. And yes, you can get a significant fine if you don't. Will police have time to go look for these kind of violations? Pretty unlikely. It's a pretty hefty load to add to their already current workload. I can't imagine that. So it is up to us all, business owners and individuals, to follow along. And there are supports, especially, we are really fortunate because we're in Oakland County. There are so many additional supports, including financial support for small businesses through the county. So there are new grants that just got introduced through the Michigan Economic Development Corp, right? So you can go online as a business owner, through that coronavirus webpage again and apply for the new funds that just came in. And they're for small businesses. The grants, I think, are up to $5,000. And that is usually enough for a small business for this short period of time that we're talking about to get you through, right? And it means cutting back again if you've been opened. But if you've been opened, you weren't opened all the way. And so now we're back to where we were way back in the spring. And, it's going to go back and forth until we can get this in control. So help encourage everyone we know to do this, to follow the rules, so that we can come out the other side and really start to come back in a more normal way. And maybe then we can time that, keep it managed very carefully, as we had, good news coming out about vaccines from 2 companies and medicine. And the nice part of that, of course, is that's, more near-term action. So lots of positives in there, too.
Senator Rosemary Bayer with us, Michigan State Senator from District 12, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Senator Bayer, just another couple minutes with you before we say goodbye today. Anything else that would be important for the constituents of yours in District 12 or for people in general in our local area to know from the state level at this time?
No, I think, if you get a chance, if you know anyone, there's 2 big groups now we're saying hurrah to, right? All of those frontline workers are really stretched. Hospitals are at capacity or near that. Some of them are sending people elsewhere. So we're still thanking the frontline workers, and the other frontline workers that we just stretched to the max were all the people, thousands of people, election workers, either staff or volunteers, who made everything work so well during election week, right? It was intense. It was more voters, more votes than we've ever had. Over 5 million people cast votes. And to be able to count all of those within a few days, it was just incredible. And to keep their cool under pressure, really, really amazing. So say thanks to those guys if you know any of them, because they're just all incredible. Those are the heroes for the month.
They definitely are. We know here in the West Bloomfield area, they worked around the clock to pull off this election. So thank you to all of them, and thank you to you as well for taking time out to be with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. I know you're in your first term still. This must be quite the education that you're getting to not only step into this position, but also to do it in the middle of a pandemic as well. So we want to say thank you for your time, and it's always great to have you with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. Tyler and I are going to take a quick break here on the show. And when we come back, we're going to be joined with the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association to get his take on the latest announcement from the Whitmer administration. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green
or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on to help stop the spread of COVID-19. Wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards. Back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Thank you for tuning in to the Monday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. A lot of restaurant owners, bars, and even the hotel industry, just thrown for another loop. As the state senator said, if you've been paying attention, you pretty much knew this was coming. However, anticipating it and having it actually, become official are two different things. And joining us now on the Oakland County Megacast is John McNamara. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. We just had you on not long ago talking about how some of the businesses and the restaurants were, starting to get their footing back a little bit, but worried about this happening. And now it's here, it's official as of Wednesday. What are you hearing from your members?
So at this point, they're scared and they're frustrated. I think they're beyond being angry. They're beyond being mad. And now it's, how are we supposed to survive? Because you don't just shut down a restaurant. There's supply chain implications. There's product that they've ordered. There's product that they have they don't want to freeze. So they're really looking at this as it's not 3 weeks for them. It's going to be more like 6 to 8 for them to fully open up again. And then, is it worth to fully open again in mid-December if no one wants to be out?
And with this, John, are you hearing from some of your members, or what are you telling them for the ones that are deciding to say, hey, I'm going to roll the dice and keep my doors open?
We have not heard anyone say they're planning on defying the order and going to keep their doors open. Obviously, takeout and delivery are still going to be very useful tools during this time. And, hopefully the general public will continue to be supportive. But I've obviously we were talking about this all weekend, and I've been talking about this since about 6 o'clock this morning. But everyone I've talked to so far, the message, their message has been, how do we pivot? How do we, and make this work? Not, I'm going to stay open and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, and we just came off of the, rules that were implemented a couple weeks ago with the sign-in for the contact tracing. It seems like, and they dialed back on that mandate, made it more of a recommendation. But now we're going through this, and as the business owners, can we talk a little bit about the numbers? Because is this really, I checked the dashboard on the state of Michigan. They have a dashboard and you can check the outbreaks. And I'm like, what am I missing here? Because it seems the public numbers, at any rate, aren't really supporting the outbreak numbers. Are there more outbreaks happening? And, is it maybe just not being reported to the state? Does someone know more than I do? Well, there are a lot of people who do, but
right. We don't believe so, and we keep hearing about science and data, and we don't believe that the numbers are there to support it. And also, we believe it's far safer for people to be in a regulated environment where someone's going to make you wear a mask when you're not sitting down, when there's only going to be 6 people at a table, when you'll be 6 feet from the other table, and having these regulations in place and following them to a T, rather than having everyone in someone's basement where no one's going to wear a mask and people are just going to be more relaxed because they're in someone's home, and that's just the way it is. So we're obviously not thrilled about it, not happy with it. We did have some heads up, we did know it was coming, but right now we moved on to how do we survive, and how do we get past this, and how do we get to April when people can be outside again, and hopefully we have a vaccine that's available to anyone who wants it.
So are you anticipating this is going to run longer than the 3 weeks?
Probably. Can't say that for sure, but they have that ability to extend it beyond 3 weeks. And then again, even if it's not shutting down a restaurant for 3 weeks, then having it's tough to then just turn around and reopen your doors and have everything ready to go. But we are anticipating this does go beyond 3 weeks.
John McNamara with us, the Vice President of Government Affairs with the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. And John, this isn't a situation like it was before, where it's the first time that you're closing that proverbial door and having to make these adjustments. There's some experience there on behalf of these restaurants and these bars from the first set of shutdowns, but it was inevitable that we all knew going into the latter half, hopefully, of this statewide and countrywide battle against COVID-19, that reclosing that door after it's been reopened is going to be even more complicated for these restaurants. How many, or what percentage, if you have any sort of estimates right now, does your organization believe can survive these 3 weeks if they're not getting ample support from the public through carryout and through delivery dining? How many of your restaurants do you believe may survive or may not survive this current shutdown?
So statewide, we've already lost about 2,000 restaurants permanently, and there's about 16,000 in the state of Michigan. We believe that if this continues and we have, this was with reduced capacity, that we would lose another about 2,000 to 3,000 more over, by January. And I think, if they just tell people, you can't go into a restaurant until mid-January, you're probably going to see another 3,000 restaurants close their doors for good.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. And one of the things that's been an additional struggle for so many restaurant owners has to do with the employees. So they struggle to get employees. They have some employees back. I think that's one part of this conversation a lot of people aren't focused on right now is what's going to happen to these employees. Because if now, you have to remember, so many of them are relying on those tips in order to actually, pay the light bill or, put food on the table. Is there any type of discussion within the association on what can be done to try to support the employees?
There is. So what really needs to be done, and the senator touched on this before, we need a second round of funding from the federal government, and it's just that simple. And they seem to be inching closer and closer, but I think now as you see more and more states start to shut down, they need to act quickly, because right now they're saying it's not going to be until January when they get a deal done, but January is just simply not going to cut it. So obviously Michigan does have an enhanced unemployment program that goes through December 31st of this year. But then, it's back to status quo. But, there needs to be another round of paycheck protection funding, and there needs to be probably a second round of stimulus checks from the federal government. And then additionally, some more money for unemployment, some more CARES dollars.
Do you think if this is only 3 weeks that more restaurants are going to maybe continue to try to do extended outdoor dining? Because there was some movement about the outdoor dining and what was going to be allowed and what wasn't going to be allowed. It seemed like there was some discussion and some movement on that topic. Or is that going to be tabled now, or do you think that that's going to continue?
No, we've already had those conversations this morning yet of trying to get a very specific definition from Health and Human Services of what does outdoor dining mean. For example, if someone were to invest the money in the igloos you're seeing, does that count as outdoor dining since they're outdoor, or is it indoors since it's enclosed? So no, that we will continue to have those conversations, and I think if people can do it and find a way to do it effectively and efficiently, and they can afford it, they'll do it. But I mean, right now, even if you put a tent in your parking lot, you can't have the sides down, and I don't know a lot of people who want to sit outside in 40-degree weather with as windy as it's been in Michigan.
Yeah, or when it becomes like 10 below, that right. Number is going to decrease quite a bit there. And with that, before we let you go, can we talk a little bit about enforcement? Has there been any discussion and talks about the possibility of the enforcement behind these orders? Who's going to be responsible? Because I'm sure you're getting a lot of those questions from your members as well.
Yeah, so it will come down to local public health, who will be the ultimate people to enforce this. I mean, in theory, could your sheriff's department or local police drive around and check? I'm sure they could. I doubt they will. They have many other things to do to help protect the people of the state of Michigan and their communities. So it will be up to local public health. And I mean, they're already, very, they work really hard and they do a great job, but they're spread pretty thin already. So it's just going to be one more thing for them to keep an eye on. But in general, we saw compliance last time. We anticipate seeing compliance again. No one wants to have their liquor license taken away. No one wants to lose their business license. So this industry will continue to grind and continue to pivot and continue to make it work. And, unfortunately, not everyone's going to make it, but those that do will come back stronger, and we're just right now looking forward to spring.
John McNamara with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. We want to say thank you for your time. I know you have been fielding phone calls probably like crazy over the past 24 hours, so we do appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to talk with us as well. And again, thank you for all that you're doing for the restaurant industry and helping them navigate these crazy times. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
John McNamara. He's the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Michigan Restaurant and Lodging Association. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. Still a lot to get to in the next hour. When we come back, we'll be speaking with the CEO for the Better Business Bureau. So many online scams right now, and I will tell you, Tyler, some of these are good. Like, I knowing what I know and anticipating them, they look so real. I've even almost been victim once or twice. So we'll be speaking with her, and then also we'll be speaking with the Director of Broadcast Properties for the Michigan High School Athletic Association on the big news about the suspension of the high school sports right now. And then we'll round out our show with a YouTube video creator. I'm excited to talk to that guy. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Shopping has completely changed during this pandemic. Black Friday, traditionally, well, it had started on Thanksgiving, but was really the day after Black Friday shopping, the kickoff to the holiday season. Used to be a mad rush at the stores, but we are already seeing the Black Friday deals taking place online. And as this crisis continues, more and more people are shopping online. And with that are more and more thieves out there trying to get a hold of your money. And to talk a little bit more about what you can do, what to look for, as well as how you can protect yourself from some of these scammers, we are going to be joined now by Melanie Ducos now. She's the CEO for the Better Business Bureau. Thank you so much for being with us. It's great to have you.
Not a problem. I'm glad to be here.
So are you seeing an increase of online scams and people falling victim to them right now?
I'm sad to say yes. And the problem is that it's hitting all demographics. But ask me a few more questions and I'll tell you more.
What's so hard is you get these emails and they really do look legit. Like whether it's Netflix or Amazon. If I get another one from Apple again. And so what I've been even my husband said, I have this one from Netflix. There's a billing question. I'm like, you don't even have the Netflix account. But he's like, but it looks so real. So what should they look for, and what can they do to avoid not becoming a victim?
So It's online shopping time. So you're going to be looking at what did you order? Who'd you order it from? When is it supposed to be delivered? You almost need to keep a calendar when you do order, who you ordered it from and when is it going to be delivered, so you don't fall prey to the scams that come your way. The UPS tracking scam is raging right now. It looks like UPS sends you a notification that you're about to get a package that you may have ordered or you may not have. So the best way to avoid those kind of things is go directly to the place you ordered it. Don't click on that link. Go right to the website. And by going to the website, you avoid whatever might be in that link that could be malware, could be a bot that they're trying to install on your computer to get your personal information. So you want to do your best to avoid it. And the only way that I know is to go in and type in Amazon.com or Target.com, or if you really think it's a UPS tracking, go to UPS.com. But by doing that, you avoid whatever might be behind the scenes in that link.
Melanie DeQuesnel with us on the Oakland County Megacast. She is the CEO of the Better Business Bureau, joining us today on the program. And of course, at this time of the year, you have a lot more people that are doing things online, especially now during the pandemic. Is that increase that much greater now in the number of people falling victim to these scams because of the pandemic, on top of the regular issues that may arise yearly during the holiday season?
Well, it's a simple case of numbers. If you have more people ordering online, you have more opportunities for scams and frauds. So the Michigan Retailers Association is anticipating that traditional online orders used to range about 40 to 50% of somebody's Christmas list. They're estimating it could rise to 70% on average. So just think about that. A 30% increase over what they did last year to this year. We're all busy. The problem is we're all so busy trying to battle COVID, make sure our families are safe, make sure that we do what we're supposed to do in our own marketplace. So when you're doing all of that, sometimes you get a little hurried and you see something pop up in a text or an email and you go, yeah, that's what I did, click. Once you've hit the click, your opportunities for taking it back are zero. Absolutely zero. So you need to make absolutely certain, I know I'm using absolutely a lot, but you do need to make certain that you know exactly what you're clicking on. So scams and frauds are occurring because the opportunity or low-hanging fruit is right there. So yeah, we're anticipating it going way up. And sadly, there'll be people, especially millennials, Gen Y, Gen Zs, that are just so accustomed to getting conversations or alerts on their phones that they're natural to click those. In fact, just a little statistic, the most likely to be scammed and lose money right now are millennials. They're not going to lose a ton, but they're going to lose some. The most likely to be scammed and lose a lot of money are going to be our seniors because they have all the money rather than the millennials who are just starting their money journey.
So if someone does become victim to one of these scams, do they have any recourse?
It really depends. Most times if you use your credit card and let's say that you clicked on something and on Facebook, let's change it a little bit. So let's say you're scrolling through your Facebook and you see this really cool item and you go, I really want to buy that. Please note that Facebook does not vet their advertisers whatsoever. So you do not know who that advertiser is behind the scenes. Before you click a buy situation, take a second, open a new page in your browser and do a little research. You know, if you're going to buy the puppy cushion or you're going to buy the new 2020 Christmas ornament, know who you're buying from, because again, Facebook isn't looking out for your best interest on that. They're just taking their advertising dollars. I know that makes me think that, you know, make people think that Facebook is bad. No, they're just doing what the marketplace does. When somebody offers you money to advertise on your website, people take it and run. So recognize that you are the best person to make sure that you don't get scammed. If you buy anything online, always use credit card. No ifs, ands, or buts. Because if you do not get that product, you can go to your credit card company and notify them, and 99% of the time they will reverse the charges. If you use a debit card, and there are lots of people that would prefer to use a debit card because they don't want to rack up credit card costs, you open yourself up to allowing the scammer into your bank accounts. So unless you have a bank account that you have like your Christmas fund in, rather than your house fund, you can use a debit card because the possibility of loss is small. But if you're going to just use your general checking account, your risk is quite significant.
When should a person know to bring in an organization like yours, the Better Business Bureau?
We should always be your first course of business. And I know that sounds really pompous, but if you're looking at trying to figure out if this is a business you want to do business with, if they're trustworthy, we're at a click away. You go to bbb.org, you type in the name of the company. Now, I'm going to warn you, we don't have everybody on the planet. So going back to that Facebook example, a lot of those advertisers are actually offshore. They're not US-based companies. We don't have those companies in our database. We cover North America. We cover mainly Canada and the US and a little bit of Mexico. But from the perspective of, we do our best to make sure we have just-in-time data. You can call us, you can go online, and if we don't have that information, we also have resources that we can maybe get you to the point where you get that information you're looking for.
So it's not just online scams right now that's happening. I know a lot of people are hiring contractors to come in and do work, but what type of homework should an individual do before they allow a contractor into their home?
Well, in the times of COVID, you need to ask them what they're doing to make sure that the people they're putting in your house are safe. Are they tested on a regular basis? Are they masking up? What are you going to do to make sure that you've got the social distance you need to make sure that you're safe? I'll give you an example. I just had a friend of mine have a plumber in, and she literally afterwards went throughout the house making sure that she Lysoled everything so her bubble would be safe. But the contractor actually did all the things that he was supposed to do, but she was taking additional precautions. If you're looking at doing the quick remodeling because you're going to have family over for Christmas, make sure you know who you're working with. Has the company been around for a while? Has the company had any major complaints or bad customer reviews? Look at, when you do any customer review search on bbb.org, look at their best one and their worst one and literally throw them away. You want to look at the middle of the pack and see how the business has handled perhaps an oops that they never intended, but for whatever reason happened. Murphy's Law does reign. And from that perspective, make sure that they handled it. They stepped up when they needed to, and they resolved the issue.
Yeah, because when there are so many online reviews right now, how does an individual know which ones are real reviews and which ones are bogus ones?
Yeah, well, I'll give you an example with BBB. I cannot speak to my competitors, but I can speak to BBB. When we get a customer review on any business, should it be an accredited business or a non-accredited business, we are sending it to the business to confirm that this was their customer. If it wasn't, we don't publish it. So think about it. The stuff that you get at bbb.org has been vetted. We have conversed with the business and made sure that this reviewer has the relationship that is necessary to make sure that the review is what it is.
Are you finding that in the middle of this pandemic, are people taking the time to do more research, or is it just click away or, buy away, or are they trying to be a more educated consumer?
There's definitely two schools of thought there. There is the one that I would say, and I'll use my demographic as the example, we tend to be a little bit more research driven. The ones that are in a hurry, not necessarily related to a house improvement or something of that sort, where I consider a big ticket item, but they're going to buy a dress or they're going to buy some shoes online. They're not checking. They're just buying because they consider $50 to $100 expendable. In my mind, $2 is not expendable, but that's a whole nother thing.
And what advice do you give to some of the people that maybe are running into issues because of COVID? So I know some of my friends are having issues with StubHub right now with tickets to events, and they're saying, well, because of COVID or airlines, things of that nature, are there ways for a customer to navigate if they're not getting the results from the company who, you know, the company representative may basically say, well, due to the pandemic, we can't assist you?
That's when hopefully you've acquired the item or the service with a credit card, because then you can back right out of it because you've not been delivered the goods or the services, and you can go to your credit card provider and say, reverse the charges. So I'll use the airline. I actually just went out to Vegas to see my parents. They're in their 80s. Did all the right things, got my COVID test, got antibody test, did all that fun stuff before I got on the plane. I will tell you my personal opinion, Delta did a great job, made sure everything was clean, they hand you stuff, made sure everything was cool. And when I got home, what did I do? I quarantined. But I will also tell you that Delta changed our flight time 3 separate times from the time we booked to the time we took off. So it was all COVID related. They were looking at the number of butts and seats, and the result was that they had to amend. So you have to be flexible in that. But if it's a product or service that you did not get, and you know you're not going to get because it's taken way too long, contact your credit card company and have the charges reversed.
So Mel, such great advice from you today. Before we let you go, anything we didn't touch on that you think our viewers and listeners would benefit from hearing?
Well, homework is hard. Homework is time consuming, but homework is so necessary during this time. Understanding what retailer you're working with and understanding what their COVID restrictions are. The Michigan Retailers Association just published what the restrictions are with this latest advisory from the health department. And they're really trying to look at what's the number of people in our space. So if you are concerned about your health and you want to make sure that if you get to that retailer that you're going to be able to shop, call ahead. Make some phone calls and just walk through with them. I will tell you, the retailers that we work with are more than happy to field those kind of calls, because not only do they want to keep you safe, but they want to keep their own teams safe. So just pack your patience, pack your brain, because sometimes we get so uptight about, oh, I got to get this, Cabbage Patch doll. I'm showing my age. But, make sure that that thing is not as important as your health. That's my 2 cents.
Well, that's a good place to leave on. Melanie Duconel with us. She's the CEO for the Better Business Bureau. Quickly, before we let you leave, if someone needs to contact your organization, how can they do so?
They can call us at 248-223-9400 or go to bbb.org/Detroit.
Well, we so appreciate your time today, and thank you for all of the advice and your words of wisdom as we all continue to navigate this crazy crisis, and hopefully it will come to an end soon and we will be able to get out and shop like we used to. So thank you for your time. Tyler and I are going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and when we come back, we are going to be talking about high school sports now on hold. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart, keep wearing a mask in public, and if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus. Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer halted high school fall sports the entire season for at least the next 3 weeks. That was announced last night. And I think it took a lot of the teams and a lot of the players and the coaches for a loop.
Yes.
A lot of disappointment with those teams. However, the Michigan High School School Athletic Association makes these decisions out of the safety and the concern for the students as well as their teammates and their family members as well. Joining us now is John Johnson. He is the Director of Broadcast Properties for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Thanks for being with us. Not an easy decision for you and your team to make.
Well, it's a decision we had to accept. The only thing that we could really do is make a decision about what will we do when these restrictions come off. And we remain committed to finishing these tournaments that have started. This is like many other things with COVID. This was beyond the association's control. We would be breaking state law if high school sports would be allowed to continue. And so the only wiggle room in there was to, oh, sure, we could have practices and such today and tomorrow, but that wouldn't be a very good look to have, to be gathering teams together at a time when we're being told by state government not to.
But John, how is this going to work? Because let's say in 3 weeks, the order is lifted. You try to go ahead and continue the postseason, but the players haven't been playing for 3 weeks. I'm sure it's not like a light switch where we can say, hey, we're just going to turn it back on and get out there and play.
Absolutely not. And just like we did in the fall when we first suspended activities, there will be some practice time that would be allotted to teams to get back into game shape, to allow swimmers to continue their taper. Because if you're looking at a group most affected, swimmers have really primed themselves and worked hard to get to this exact point in the season. And so they would need time to, again, get some training in. Football players would need to get the same, obviously, in volleyball. But swimming probably has a little more problems just because of the fact that you train for a certain meet of the season. And that would have been this Friday and Saturday at Hudsonville and Grand Rapids and up at Lake Orion. But we've got some ideas in place that we're going to run by our board, which will meet later this week to see how school people would react to a potential schedule to try to get tournaments refired if we get the green light to resume on December 9th. And that's still a really big question.
And then John Johnson, Director of Broadcast Properties for the Michigan High School Athletics Association. Organizationally, as you're planning for the remaining 3 weeks of the football tournament and for these other tournaments, what goes into the planning of those then? Because a lot of the times, especially in the regional finals like we're heading toward for football, these are on team sites. There could be weather implications such as snow on the ground that may not be able to be necessarily removed from the school, or facilities that may not be able to be upkept for any sort of spectators or broadcasts or whatever may be. What does the MHSAA do at that point for that continuity in the tournament if these schools are having any issues of that kind?
Well, and those are things that we've encountered in October, things that we've encountered in early November, things that other states have encountered. Everybody always likes to point at Ohio and say, yeah, Ohio can play, this, and say, yeah, they play football into December too in a normal year. And they've played their state championships in snowstorms and ice storms outside. At least we have the benefit of being able to play our finals, and we will play our finals if we get to them inside at Ford Field. That decision was made last week. But this is an important time of year for schools to be readying their outdoor facilities for the winter. Most of them have it done already if you're among those schools that aren't still playing in the tournament. And so, yes, there's a lot of things that have to be taken into consideration. But let's also remember that, we've had snowless Christmases here downstate. And, the weather can always do all kinds of wacky things. We could have a 50-degree day and be playing regional finals outside. We just got to roll with the punches and play with the hand that we're given.
Yeah, at times like this, you really wish the Farmer's Almanac was as accurate as it was to help you make some of these decisions. And, so the state title games were going to be December 4th and 5th at Ford Field. And if you're able to extend them, delay them and play again, what is that like to try to schedule Ford Field, a big entity, with a date that could constantly be changing?
Well, first of all, if we look at December dates, we have a very good chance to get into the building. Even January dates, there's a lot of events that have been taken off the schedule because of COVID. There was supposed to be a monster truck thing. Well, that's gone now. There was supposed to be the it's not called the Motor City Bowl, but Quick Lane Bowl. Quick Lane Bowl got pulled off the calendar. That would have been the week following the Lions home game on the 27th. So you have a window there. It's just a matter, again, play the hand that you're given. We're already looking into the dates with Ford Field about the possibilities. And we have to do the same thing with our schools. Will our schools be available? Those sites that I mentioned earlier about swimming. Battle Creek has already indicated to us its availability whenever to bring the volleyball finals back into Kellogg Arena. So, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts. We've got a few weeks to work on it. But, again, we've got to wait and see if this is, if this is a 3-week pause or just a 3-week tease.
John Johnson with us, the Director of Broadcast Properties at the Michigan High School Athletics Association, or the MHSAA. With us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Of course, all high school sports in the state of Michigan have been suspended in reaction to the in compliance with the epidemic order recently enacted by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services that goes into effect on Wednesday. And from the MHSAA's perspective, there have been some outbreaks. There have been some cases of COVID-19 amongst fall sport athletes, but they've been handled. They've been contained within the schools, and some have even shut down their programs during the playoffs in some of these sports because of COVID-19 outbreaks. Does the MHSAA believe that at this time, if they were permitted to have continued to play these sports, that they could continue to do those safely? And is this maybe something that the organization disagrees with on the state government's part?
Well, we are going to support state government in any decision that's made regardless of this is too important. This is bigger than any football game, any volleyball match, any swimming or diving event. And when you take a look at high schools being targeted here for shutdown, and some of the comments that I heard last night, I'm not sure that some of that information was accurate about transmission during sporting events. Because all of the things that you've seen so far in the newspapers report that outbreaks in high school have been connected to things that were non-athletic. These secret homecoming events, these after the game parties that parents would throw indoors and players would go to. and yeah, some player parties. But these are all things that are away from the school. Have to remember that we were conducting in excess of 95% of our athletic events here during the fall. Those are the numbers that we saw from Iowa when Iowa conducted its baseball and softball tournaments during the summer. And, we had a very good fall. And, we've seen a lot of coaches say, hey, we feel fortunate to get to where we've gotten. Ron Bellamy at West Bloomfield High was just quoted as saying that in one of the Detroit newspapers this morning. Our volleyball community has told us, hey, we're happy to get what we've gotten so far. There's a lot of people that are still up about this, but, I really disagree with those who say that transmission is happening during high school athletic events, because it's not happening during events. It's happening elsewhere.
And John, just a couple more minutes with you here on the Oakland County Megacast. As you said, you've had constantly pivot and change how you do things and make decisions on, constantly. A lot goes into one decision, and then you're throwing a new curveball. How do you think this pandemic is going to make your organization and the high school athletes stronger?
Well, there's been a lot of things that have happened along the way that we've looked at in conducting our tournaments and conducting the regular seasons. Even at the local level, schools would say, hey, wait a minute, this worked pretty good right now. What if we did this in did it this way in a non-pandemic year? So we've been given a lot of food for thought about how to approach some of our day-to-day business. Mother is, the mother is the necessity. I can't remember how that thing goes. But out of necessity, we've done some things that might serve us very well if all things were normal. And so, we'll come out of this with having learned a lot about how to conduct some of our tournaments, how to conduct some of our games. And we'll have a lot of discussion for our membership going forward. But right now, our goal is to finish what we started here for the fall and move on, and then provide the same experiences for the kids in the winter and the kids in the spring.
John Johnson with us from the MHSAA. For those in the winter and the spring, should those athletes, those coaches, and parents, of course, should they be anticipating moderate delays in those seasons' starts and finishes, or shortened seasons because of the current shutdown and, of course, the after effects of the previous shutdown before the fall season?
Well, I think everything is still up for discussion, but practices for fall sports, we're projecting, if we get a green light to go on December 9th, that will not only include finishing up our fall tournaments, it will include the beginning of winter practices. And so if we get things going, then people could expect January for the resumption or the launch of the regular season, which a number of schools were already taking that precaution anyway, pushing things back into January. Now that might make for a shortened winter tournament season. One of our thoughts right now is just to keep the tournament dates the way they are. And then, we'll see what happens this spring when we get there. But, right now, this isn't knocking us off task. We're still bound and determined to, finish up the fall and have the rest of the school year go on the best we can with all of the circumstances swirling around us.
That's all any of us can do right now, just trying to deal with things that are out of our control and make the best of the situation. John, anything we didn't touch on that you want to say before we let you go?
No, I think it's just incumbent upon all of us to look at what we must do. And it's the stuff everybody's heard before about masking up and washing your hands and all of that kinds of stuff. School sports was doing that pretty well. Society, hey, we can have a great discussion about masking up and washing our hands and all of that other stuff. But doing the things that get us into a position to, as the governor has said, flatten the curve again, because it has to be done. We'll see in a couple of weeks if, Michiganders are doing that, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. And we just ask everybody, do your part to try to help us squash COVID-19.
Yeah, and I will say we have to give a lot of credit to a lot of these student athletes who have been taking the necessary precautions and playing with the mask and doing what they needed to do to try to stay safe and keep their sport going. And a lot of credit needs to go to them as well as their coaches out there.
Oh, absolutely. Our schools are doing the best job that they can, under some trying circumstances and dealing with different parts of the state and, and different thought processes. You just like we heard all of this stuff, in the months leading up to this point, a lot of things you hear in the community about people not wanting to do things. Now you hear about those in sports too. And you got to remember, we live in a society nowadays where nobody can tell us what to do. That's a fact. And but this is the time where everybody needs to, everybody needs to step up. Everybody needs to do the right thing. Everybody needs to do the same things. And let's get rid of this virus.
Well, thank you again for being with us. I know a lot of disappointed students out there as well as some of their parents, but the end goal here is to keep everyone safe. Thank you, John Johnson. He is the Director of Broadcast Properties for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast, and then when we come back, one person who has remote teaching down to a T. He is a YouTube video creator, so we can all learn a few things from him right now. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Parks COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Great to have you with us on the Monday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studio alongside Mr. Tyler Keith. Just a reminder, you can catch us on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. You can also find us on Channel 15 on Comcast, Channel 99 on AT&T. And if you're out driving around in your car, tune us in to the radio, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH in Bloomfield Hills. Also, we want to say thank you today to the West Bloomfield Parks Department for allowing us to live stream today's edition of the Megacast on their Facebook page. And one of the great things, just remember, if you tune in at 3 o'clock to the West Bloomfield Parks Facebook page, they will be doing a live event, and you can maybe answer some questions, test your history and your knowledge about the West Bloomfield Parks, and win some tickets to some upcoming events there through the West Bloomfield Parks Department. Our last guest today, before we leave you, while teachers are struggling right now to try to teach remotely, this guy has been doing it for years, but in a different capacity. Let's bring in Justin Odisho. He is a YouTube video creator. How does one get over 800,000 subscribers? You must be a really good teacher.
Thank you. Hi, Ronnie and Tyler. Thanks for having me on. I guess I sort of became a teacher unknowingly, just kind of as a hobby. I started a YouTube channel in 2011 sharing educational content around my hobbies of photo and video editing, softwares like Photoshop and whatnot. And I mean, practice makes perfect. So over making hundreds and hundreds of brief educational videos, posting them on YouTube, getting feedback. There's tons of times where people will tell me, your audio sounds horrible, or, you need to get to the point, hurry up, you talk too much. You kind of learn what the audience wants to hear, and I don't know if I'd be the best teacher in a classroom setting, but I definitely know how to make a short educational video and put it out there in a concise way.
And how did this start? Do you actually do this as a career?
Yeah, so what I do is my full-time business since about 2017, and it is an LLC and everything. And it started, like I said, as a hobby when I was a teenager. I used to just my older brother had downloaded some of these video and photo editing softwares like After Effects and Photoshop, and I used to play around with them as a child of the internet. You'd be hanging out online all day and making graphics and videos and whatnot. So I developed the skills, and then YouTube came around in about 2006, 7, and I would be posting in 2008 and 9. But, the things that I would be posting weren't really focused. They had copyrighted music. I'm sure you know all the technical stuff about that. And so I decided in 2011, I really enjoyed sharing videos just for fun. I didn't have any business ideas, but I needed something safer, family friendly, whatever if you want to call it, that I could just post and not worry about rules and whatnot. So I thought educational Photoshop stuff is something I can do and seems to have an audience. And yeah, now I've lost track of it's such a long story. I've lost track of the original question.
Justin Odisho with us. He is a YouTube video creator with over 800,000 subscribers on YouTube, joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. And Justin, today so many more people are dabbling in content creation, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be streaming on a number of platforms, or just creating their own videos as a side business as well. What, for people that are interested in that and maybe now have the time to start making that move or start pursuing that either hobby or career, whatever the case may be for them, what are the first steps that you suggest as someone that has gone down that road for people to make those first steps?
Yeah, I think you touched on a good point about how everything is now becoming, especially now with the lockdowns and COVID and whatnot, everything is accelerated. We're even doing this on Zoom. So I always like to think of it as video is kind of just another language. It's one of the most popular languages, one of the most universal languages. And so it would always be beneficial for you to be more fluent in communicating in this language, whether that's just simple things like, knowing how to use a webcam in Zoom, or nowadays everyone's phone is so capable. You can truly shoot and upload and share videos to the world straight from your phone without much technical prowess at all. So just those basic things, I guess, for the totally uninitiated crowd. And then if you want to get even more kind of creative with it and into it, you can get one of these popular video editing programs at like Premiere Pro or Final Cut, or even iMovie, whatever you have, and you can just learning the basics of how to combine audio and video and maybe a couple text graphics and cut clips together really unlocks a lot of possibilities, I think. And I compare it to riding a bike. Once you learn how to ride a bike, you kind of never really lose that skill, even though the programs might change. You just kind of got to learn the software and the programs again.
This is amazing to me that you started this when you were a kid, because I am constantly trying to learn Adobe, and I do the little online tutorials. And for me, if I don't do it all the time, then I forget the things that I learned. I even took a class through the local community college, and every time I now go back on, I'm like, oh, how do you do that? There are so many different steps. So for someone like you to take this as just a hobby and turn it in to really a very popular YouTube channel, are you able to make money off of your YouTube channel? And have you seen the number of people tuning in to try to learn from you increase, because now businesses and people are having to make their own videos?
Yeah, that's a good question, because a lot of people it is such a new thing, and it hasn't always been this way. When I started, you weren't able to technically make money and have ads and whatnot. So What I've done, I'm not the most popular channel. I'm not like a famous vlogger or whatnot. What I've done is I've created a large catalog of videos that, like you said, address every problem. Like if you want to Google how to export, how to save, how to do this, that, and that, in all these popular programs, one of my videos might come up. So I am, just like any other business, I'm solving a problem for a potential customer. And however, the way that you get paid is much more difficult than, traditional jobs that I've had. In this, I've had to kind of squeeze the juice as much as I can to make it a good business. So, your main your main value is the traffic that's coming in. So, all the views that you're getting, all the potential people watching all your content. And the way that you get paid on YouTube, you can turn on ads. So, whenever you watch a YouTube video, sometimes you'll see the ad. That's a good fraction of income for many YouTubers. You get a certain amount of dollars per 1,000 views. It depends on the topic that you talk about. But then I also sell products on my website. I sell like digital products to help people save time in editing, plugins, like creative assets. So that makes up another good chunk of my business. And then between that, I also earn some commissions and work with different brands. It's definitely not something everyone can do because this has been years in the making, and I am one of the larger channels around this topic. So I am able to get those commissions and whatnot. But there's different topics, and it all, if you use good business practices, it all helps. And then the second part of your question, if things have become more popular during this whole lockdown, it's kind of been, there's been pluses and negatives. I have, when everyone was locked inside, I can see my analytics, and definitely some of my videos were getting more views during lockdown, especially the ones that had to do with stuff like how to split the screens and do, I'm guessing, interview type of stuff. People were looking up how to do this, and I saw a spike. However, people were also spending less discretionary income on the things on my website are not really essential goods. They're not food or water or clothing. It's more like creative plugins and assets. So I guess if people aren't getting video jobs in the real world, because my customers would be like camera people making videos for other clients, it all kind of trickles down. But now things have kind of smoothed out now, and I hope it can keep it going through this. If I can make it through this rough patch, I feel like then that'll be really good for a young business like myself.
Oh, you're like such an example for young people to say, hey, if you follow a passion, you started it just because it was a hobby and it was an interest to you, and then it grew into this business. And knowing that, I would think, though, I always look at editing kind of like a home improvement job. You always think it's going to take so much less time than what it actually does. Do you have anyone that maybe goes onto your YouTube page to think that they can learn a skill and then they just get frustrated and give up, and then, contact you and say, hey, can you just edit this for me? Because one of the great things about the line of work that you're in is you can do it remotely.
Yeah, that is one great thing that I didn't mention about the lockdown is I haven't seen my ability to work get affected as much as I've seen relatives, and my own brother had to find a different job. So I've been lucky in that way. But yeah, I get all type of comments on my channel. A lot of good comments, like people saying, wow, you're like, it's hard for me to learn with anyone else, but you explained it in a way where I could create the final product. So I'm happy about that. But there's people that they say I'm still not getting it or whatnot. And I do get emails saying, hey, I just don't know how to do After Effects at all. But if you'd like, or if you know anyone who would want to do this job, that just kind of speaks to the power of networking through the internet. Even if I wasn't making as many views or selling as much stuff on my own website, it could still be a viable career path by sharing and letting people know that you're capable of doing certain tasks. You could get work coming in. It's a great way of outreach that you wouldn't normally be able to. One of the funniest comments one of the best comments I've gotten, I think, lately was it was interesting. It was a comment that said, I'm like a 78-year-old or something grandmother, but I'm able to edit and learn with this video that she posted. So thanks, Justin. Definitely not my typical demographic, but that was interesting.
Justin Odisho with us. He is a YouTube video creator joining us today on the Oakland County Megacast. Justin, just a few more minutes with you before we have to say goodbye today. Is there anything else that would be important for our audience to know about you, about your content, maybe things that are coming down the pike, or how they can get started in video editing, content creation, graphic design, whatever the case may be, that we haven't touched on already on today's program?
Yeah, I would just reiterate the point that a lot of people like to complicate things and think, oh, I got to get this right gear and I got to get this thing, and make it a lot harder than it is. Truly, for one, I don't want to sell everyone the dream that go on YouTube and you're going to make a bunch of money and be famous. That's definitely not how it is. I consider myself blessed and lucky and gifted in some way to have been able to figure this out over the past 10 years. But nowadays, we all have our phones. We all have internet somewhere, whether you're here or at the local cafe. We all have access to truly the whole world of people, and you don't have to complicate it. You can simply use what you have, whether it's just your phone camera, which is high definition. It's great. And if you do have some sort of hobby or message or something you want to experiment with, you don't have to. There's truly not as many limits on you today in 2020 as there was, back when the internet couldn't even stream video capably. So, and yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, I'm very easy to reach. JustinOdisho.com. You can find all my links, or shoot me an email or just on social media. So if I can help you, that's personally something I enjoy doing, is helping as many people as possible. Now that I'm able to do that, I don't take it for granted. So.
Well, I think it's great. Again, give out your YouTube channel. And is it important for people to actually subscribe to your channel? What's the difference between that or just going on and clicking and watching one of your videos?
That's a good question, yeah. So, Justin Odisho is where you can find me everywhere. JustinOdisho. If you just search that, you'll find me on all the social medias. And, funny enough, the subscriber metric, I feel like YouTube is kind of moving away from that. It's almost like it's more of a superficial number nowadays because the way that their algorithm recommends things. It's more so on if your videos are getting sent to the different recommendations and pages. It is always nice to see, like, hey, you reached a certain milestone, and I am trying to reach that 1 million milestone just as kind of like a goal. But really what's most important for me to keep this going as a sustainable business is, getting that viewership in every month. And that just means continuing to make new videos and having a nice catalog of content and new ideas. So the subscriber metric is important, and people use it as like a bookmark for my channel, but viewership is definitely more important.
Well, it's been great having you on the show here with us on the Oakland County Megacast. We hope you get a few more viewers that click on and learn from you as well, because you definitely are offering a great service that so many of us can learn from. So thank you so much, but also thank you for the conversation. And maybe you'll be an inspiration to other people wanting to go out and start their own YouTube page. That's going to wrap it up for today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Just a reminder, you can always click on civiccentertv.com to view and watch some of our previous interviews as well. This is the Oakland County Megacast.